So if you're fortunate on gold and silver, if you're fortunate to have a capital gain on gold, then you have to pay some tax. But of course, if this is an authorized currency of the United States of America, albeit authorized by the state, then the IRS should have no ability to be able to charge that capital gains tax. So we could see tax falling away when used as on a authorized transactional gold platform. So it's super exciting across the board. It really, really clears the way for gold to be used as the ultimate sound money for people in America.
This is Little by Little with Andy Schectman.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another special episode of Little by Little. With me today is the CEO and good friend of Glint, Jason Cozens. Jason, good to see you again, buddy. How are you?
It's great to see you. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. This should probably be the last interview that you and I do in settings like this. We have a new studio that I just showed you that we're going to roll out and show everyone. Probably tomorrow will be the first show that we do in the studio. But nonetheless, we wanted to chat. There's some important things to talk about. We're not only going to talk about the states and the legal tender laws that you've been involved with and getting passed and where we are there, but we're also going to do something a little bit more remedial. We're going to go back after and let people know really what Glint is. And I think that's important. I think sometimes we take for granted just how fantastic Glint is and what it does, what it allows for, the liquidity that it gives you, the utility that it gives you, the safety that it gives you. And we're going to touch on that as well. So why don't we start with what's new, what's going on with the legal tender laws? What can you tell us that you've been involved with here in the state of Florida and around the country?
There's been so much going on. There were 22 states that were interested in using their constitutional right to make gold and silver money, to make it currency, to make it legal tender. And where are we up to now? We're halfway through the calendar year. And Florida, it's just phenomenal that Florida has authorized gold and silver as legal tender, as a currency, effectively as the second authorized currency of the United States of America. And, this couldn't have happened if it wasn't for people like Kevin Freeman and Mike Carter and Russell Lake at the Economic War Room, who have been, they're the action tank that's been driving the grassroots movement across America, and working with, representatives like Representative Doug Bankson in Florida was the state rep who took this bill on and worked really tirelessly and hard to let everyone understand what it was all about and get it passed. And of course, DeSantis then signed it, because that's a very important thing. We've seen this also happen in Arkansas, where Jim Dodson. Cindy McCallendon, I think, is her name, is the lady who got this bill for going forward along with Jim Dodson, and of course Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed it as well. So she actually was the first governor to sign this legislation into place. Andy, and then of course Florida followed, but Florida obviously being one of the biggest states in the union. Other
so
states.
Is Arkansas allowing for legal tender purchases with gold and silver?
Yes. So all 22 states across America are trying to work on this. Arkansas was the first one to get it not just passed, but also signed by the governor. It was actually Utah that got it first signed. A slightly more kind of, pared back product. But the governor there, Cox, vetoed it. I think that's the first time that a governor has vetoed a bill that he had unanimous support by his own party. Notwithstanding the fact that this has got nearly unanimous support.
What's that all about? How can you even explain that, Jason? How can you explain a unanimously voted upon nonpartisan bill that is voted down? Is there anything that even explains that?
Yeah, so basically, I think his concern was that he didn't think the technology was nearly was up to speed with the legislation, which is, I think actually, if he actually could see what Glint does as an example of what's possible and technologically, he'd have signed the bill straight away. I mean, look, Missouri's passed the law, waiting for Governor Mike Kehoe, I think his name's pronounced, to sign it. Louisiana, Representative Raymond Cruz and and Treasurer Fleming and Senator Mark Abraham, they've got their bill passed in Louisiana. Governor Jeff Landry looking to get it signed. Texas, Representative Mark DeRazio and Senator Brian Hughes got it passed in Texas, which is obviously, can you imagine if Texas joined Florida and they're waiting for Governor Abbott to sign that? I think Governor Abbott's got until Friday. If he doesn't sign it, it goes through automatically. He can, of course, sign it, but he's got 1,600 bills to look at. But of course, he can veto it as well. So all eyes are on Texas, Louisiana, and Missouri at the moment. And, the gift that Glint's given, of course, is that we've been able to go state by state with some of these action tanks and show legislators how easy this is if they pass the legislation, because Glint is an example that already exists in America, the ability to use gold as money. Because, of course, the first thing people say is, oh, what are you talking about? Use gold and silver as money? Are you crazy? Like, how does that work? We're going to start chipping off bits of the gold off the side of the bar, or are we going to start using coins? And this world of, in the electronic world we live in, it doesn't kind of make sense to them until they see Glint. And at that point they go, oh, okay, we've got to get this done as quickly as possible.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. So we are still waiting. In other words, Friday's a big day for Texas. Florida, the bill doesn't become law until next summer. Is that correct?
Well, what the bill says is that the treasurer has to, or the CFO, as they call them in Florida, has to develop some rules around this. And of course, one of the benefits for the state being involved is, in fact, there's three T's that I think the Economic War Room team are calling it. T for trust, T for taking, and T for taxes. These are the three T's, the benefits for why the state needs to pass this legislation. Because people are also saying often, well, what's the point in having this legislation if Glint already exists? Well, it's because of these three T's. The first one, trust. The treasurer, the CFO of the state, will be making rules that make sure that the companies involved, company like Glint, who they give authorization to, have the right kind of technology, systems, processes, policies in place. And also the state will want to audit the gold. One of the first questions that people often ask about Glint is, is the gold really there? How do I know it's there? Of course, we work with Bureau Veritas. I know you do at Miles Franklin as well, one of the biggest auditors of precious metals in the world. But to have the state actually be there to be able to check that the gold is rare is a really important thing. So I think the trust levels around this are going to be very high with the state backing it. And of course, this is government closer to the people, is better for the people. So this is not like the federal government being involved. This is a state government helping make sure that this is something that can be trusted. The second T is taking. I forget the dates, but it's the 1930s to the 1970s, isn't it, Andy, that the gold was illegal for ownership by citizens?
Yeah, from 1933 until 1974, actually, yes.
Yeah, and a lot of young people probably can't even believe that was the case, but yeah, that was illegal. Anyway, by the state backing this and authorizing it, it means that no future federal government could confiscate it or make it illegal again. And then the last T is taxes. So at the moment, there is a capital gains tax. If you're fortunate on gold and silver, if you're fortunate to have a capital gain on gold, then you have to pay some tax. But of course, if this is an authorized currency of the United States of America, albeit authorized by the state, then the IRS should have no ability to be able to charge that capital gains tax. So we could see tax falling away when used as on a authorized transactional gold platform. So it's super exciting across the board. It just doubles down on improving. Well, not that gold can be improved much, but it really, really clears the way for gold to be used as the ultimate sound money for people in America.
I noticed that in the Florida bill, it speaks to the removal of capital gains on the sale or the use of gold and silver for transactional purposes. So that would still fall under the realm of the IRS at this point. Is that correct? So you would still face federal capital gains tax, but not state. Is that correct? Or are they removing it altogether across the board? Because that's a big one.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the state has no power at the federal level, but if this is official currency, then they should not be able to charge capital gains tax on this. And I think most of the attorney generals in the states involved, most of the legal scholars that have looked at this, have said, well, there's absolutely no way that the IRS will be able to charge capital gains tax. Now, that doesn't mean that they will do that willingly or easily, but I think with the current administration, I think that it probably means that the attorney generals of these states won't have to go to the Supreme Court to get this across the line. I think it's going to be one of those cases where it's like, oh yeah, okay, it's this is what I'd like anyway. It's authorized currency. We're not going to charge capital gains tax on this. And actually, the Biden administration came out and made a statement on currency, and I think this was really motivated by their wish to introduce central banking digital currencies, which you and I both think are, the biggest threat to civil liberties that we've ever faced. But thankfully, that seems to be off the table for the time being. But when they were talking about that, they had a lot of chatter, of course, from the crypto community saying, "Oh, does this mean that there'll be no capital gains tax on cryptocurrency?" And they came out and they specifically made a statement and said, "Well, for something to be a currency, a legal tender, it needs to be both legal tender and transactional." And they said, "Look, Bitcoin is transactional, but it's not legal tender and can never be, because the Constitution's quite clear that no state make anything but gold and silver a payment in lieu of services and debts." And they said, but of course, CBDCs, which they were talking, it was their kind of pet project, that would be legal tender as declared by the federal government, but also transactional. So I think it's pretty clear that there won't be any capital gains tax on that, but there's nothing. The one certain thing in government you can be clear about is that it's uncertain.
Yeah, that's for sure. Anything else that you would like to talk about regarding the states and their drive towards restoring sound money again, which, we all of us in the gold community owe you, Jason, and Glint, your company, a thanks and a debt of gratitude for your tireless work to help bring sound money back to the United States. Anything that we haven't talked about before we talk about what Glint really is and what it represents to people who would like to have the ability to use gold in a transactional basis while keeping it safe and secure in a audited facility, Brinks facility in Zurich, Switzerland, in the meantime, out of the banking system?
Yeah, I mean, that's just you've touched upon a bit where it's vaulted. So I think, currently with Glint, it's vaulted in Switzerland, in Zurich. But we have we work with a worldwide license with Brinks, who are one of the biggest custodians of precious metals in the world. And we're already using Salt Lake City to store some of the gold for our institutional clients. And a lot of this legislation around America in the bills often specifies that the gold has to be stored in the state. So, for instance, in Florida, it definitely needs to be in the state. And that, of course, could be something like the Brinks Vault in Miami. In Texas, they want it to be in their own state depository. So a few years ago, Texas actually were ahead of this. Looks like they're kind of maybe falling behind, but they got ahead of this and actually built and developed and designed their own gold depository. It's sat there in Texas, so they've got their own, and they want that gold to be stored there. I'm not sure about Louisiana. I don't know if they're being that specific about it, but certainly with these systems, the gold will be either in the state or in the USA. Glint's moving to that anyway, as I've said, already opening in Salt Lake City, and soon all of our clients will have the ability to choose either a US or a Swiss vault for where their gold is stored. But it's fascinating, and going back to Glint, it was just a real privilege to be able to help with this process, to be able to show people, hey, look, don't worry about the technology. The technology is the easy bit. You guys need to get together and you need to agree on whether or not these bills need to pass. And I'm glad we were able to take away effectively the concern or the worry or the misunderstandings around technology. Because, I always say anything's possible with technology. It just depends on how much time and money it costs to get it across the line. But Glint has already done that. So very pleased to have done that. In fact, some legislators were holding the Glint card up in the legislation saying, look, I think we even got a mention once from one of the legislators, which was nice.
Well, anything I can do to help get you settled and integrated into the system in Florida, I certainly will. I am trying my hardest to be put on a panel up in Tallahassee to discuss the nuances of the bill as it relates to the retail market. And so you never know, stranger things have happened. Let's talk about, Jason, and thank you for that discussion on the states. Let's talk about Glint. Let's go back, because I think, in speaking with our mutual friend, she said, look, sometimes you guys may take for granted what Glint is and assume everyone understands it. So why don't we start from the beginning? What is Glint? Why do people need to understand it? What benefit does it provide? It's something I will say that I have been keen enough to tie my company to represent here in the United States. And it's something I feel strongly enough about it to tell the world about it. So what can you tell our listeners, people who have never really taken the time to understand what Glint is? What is it? Why don't you tell us that?
Okay, so Glint is the first company in the world to have enabled physical gold that you own, that is in the vault, to be able to allow that to be able to participate in electronic payments using our Glint app and also the Glint MasterCard. In fact, there's the plastic MasterCard here. We partnered with MasterCard. We're a principal MasterCard member in the States. We work with Sutton Bank as an issuer of this card. And we even have, look at this beauty. This is our solid gold debit card. I'm sure, Andy, you'll want to get your hands on one of those when we launch it in the US.
Yeah, it's very unfair very unfair that you show us that. We can't get those in the US yet, but hopefully they're working on that.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you what on earth I mean by this. So do you mind if I just share my screen, Andy?
Sure, absolutely. Please do.
So look, you can download Glint Pay from your favorite app store, the Google or the Apple Play Store. I can click on the icon and it brings open the interface. So you can see here, I'm using the UK version. It's got multiple wallets. It's got gold, silver, pounds, euros, and dollars. In the US, you've got gold, silver, and US dollars, of course. These are my cards at the back. You can see my gold card's inactive at the moment. There's my plastic card. You can see here where my gold is stored in Brink, Switzerland there. And it's really,
One of the things
really...
One of the things I like to mention, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think it's impressive that you will see your balance move in real time. So this is a real time valuation of what you have within your vault in Switzerland on your account. So it's not moving this second, but it just did. And every few seconds, I'm sure it refreshes, and then the balance will move depending upon what gold and silver are doing. Correct?
Yeah, that's right. So currently it's showing that my balances are worth £6,792 and 28 pence. Of course, in US terms, that would be slightly different. And that does periodically, it changes to keep up with what's going on in the market. And we're getting a real-time stream of prices from the market. So your gold, as your value of your gold goes up, so does the value of your gold. Oh, that's changed there. Look, it's gone up to 6,792.
You just made 43. Almost 20 pence.
Yeah. So look, it's really easy to buy some gold. So we can do that. I can make a one-time purchase, or I can set this to buy some gold on a regular basis, once a month, say. But if I do a one-time transfer, I can look, in the States, you can use an ACH transfer, a wire transfer, or a debit or credit card. If I do a debit or credit card, it does cost you quite a lot of money, 3%, to be able to do that. We have to pass on the cost of the card processing. An ACH is free as a small charge for a wire. And but if I just choose one of my wallets, of course, I'll use my US dollar wallet. It's got $1,701 in there. If I choose that wallet, I already funded that account earlier. I can buy as little as 10 cents worth of gold if I want. And this is an important thing for us, Andy. I think, as you know, we believe in a world where everybody has an equal opportunity to prosper. And our mission, therefore, is to try and to help with that, in that aim, is to deliver a reliable gold currency to the world. And so, although we might make slightly more revenue off people with bigger balances, it's important that everyone's got an opportunity to buy gold, even if all they can afford is 10 cents a day or a week. So, but of course, you could buy millions of dollars if you had the funds in your account. Let's just buy $10 worth of gold. At the current rate, you normally pay, as the rate changing, it just changed there. If you watch it, $108 a gram, and it's slightly going up slightly. You normally pay a fee. As the CEO, I don't pay a fee, so that's why it says that. But you'll be paying 0.9%, which is very cost effective. We use the scalability of technology to be able to pass on efficient fees to our customers. And if I review that, I can agree it, confirm it, lock the price in. That as real gold now that I've bought in my account. This is a piece of, you've bought effectively a fraction of a solid gold bar. Those 400-ounce bars, the ones you see in the James Bond movies, are about this big, nearly heading towards $1.5 million worth of gold there in those bars. And you're buying that physical gold. This is real physical gold that you own. It is yours, and it is in the vault. It's what is legally termed as allocated. And you can even have it delivered if you want to as well. And we've partnered, of course, with Miles Franklin. If people want their gold delivered, they can do. They can just get in contact with customer support, and that can be arranged.
It's a very big deal that you're talking about. I often talk about the greatest gift that I was ever given. And that is, when I started this company as a 19-year-old man with my father, I was told there'd be one rule or he would fire me. And I said, okay, Dad, what's that one rule? He says, Andy, you will buy something. I don't care if it's an ounce of silver or a tenth of an ounce of gold. You will buy something every time you get paid, period. That was 35 years ago. And I own the company outright. He's not going to fire me any longer, Jason, but I've honored my word. I've honored my word, and I've bought something every 2 weeks for 35 years. It was the greatest gift I've ever been given, to learn the laws of compounding, to learn how to have that compounding of time work in your favor, instead of against us, as most people experience. And so what I would say to younger people out there, or to people who are looking to cost average a position, whether it be automatically like I do. I use the Glint app, and once a month I have $500 worth that I purchase once a month, every month. But the point of it is that this is a way for people, as you've and I have mentioned, to democratize the price of gold, so that anyone, as you say, can buy the smallest amounts of gold. And if you were to buy $10 or $20 or $50, whatever it is, every 2 weeks, over time, and this is the thing, with gold, it's very difficult to do that. In fact, it's nearly impossible, because of how expensive gold is. But on your app, that isn't the case. And so I think it's a very important point to hone in on. And people can buy silver on the Glint app as well, but for those people that want exposure to gold, this is a beautiful way to do it with really no barrier to entry. And I think that's something I really want to hone in on for people who are trying to cost average as well, to add continuously to their portfolio. It's a beautiful way to do it, while at the same time having it held safely in a vault with Brinks, who I've worked with for 20 plus years without incident ever, never. In all of the business, we have $700 million worth of gold and silver amongst 9 vaults around North America. I've never had an ounce out of place. Never. We use the same auditing company that you do. Never a problem. And then at the same time, what you have is what it's nearly impossible to find, and that is the ability to buy gold as often as you'd like with no barrier to entry at any amount. So I just want to really hone in on that for a moment, and please continue.
Yeah, and you can see there the repeat gold buy feature in the middle of the screen, manage your plan. I've got mine set to buy £250 worth of gold on or after the 22nd. And that's what we call dollar cost averaging as well. And maybe, Andy, you could just explain a little bit about that and the benefits of dollar cost averaging in addition to the compounding effect.
Yeah, what dollar cost averaging does is smooths out the uncertainty curve. By buying on a regimented plan of time, you end up smoothing out uncertainty. We don't know what tomorrow brings. Could go up, could go down, but over time, what we've noticed, at least over the last 25 years, since 2000, is gold has appreciated by about 9.9% per year, compounding for the past 25 years. And so using the cost average feature, where you're indiscriminately buying every 2 weeks, you're not choosing a price, it's just about time. Some will be higher, some will be lower than you'd like, but over time, it smooths out all of that uncertainty, and you end up, I think, probably doing it the most prudent way in a world that is very uncertain these days. Having the ability to cost average is huge, and doesn't make you make a choice based upon current events, rather than just understand that over time your purchases will smooth out as your portfolio grows.
Sure. So, of course, let's just talk about the card. So, most of us are going to have the blue plastic card here. And mine is currently linked. If I go to my card up here, it's linked to my gold wallet. I could link it to my USD wallet if I want. So if you feel that you don't want to spend your gold for a while and you just want to spend the dollars that you have in your dollar account, you can spend US dollars, but mine's linked to my gold. And when I swipe you can use this anywhere in the world where MasterCard is accepted. That's almost anywhere. Well, almost anywhere, so up in the air, 35,000 feet in the air, I pay for my American Airlines. I pay for my Wi-Fi with gold. When I'm in Florida, when I'm in Miami, I pay for my hotel with gold. When I'm in Texas and I'm there, I'm paying with things with gold. Wherever I am in the world, and it could be internationally as well. Here in London, it could be in Tokyo, Mumbai, Paris, anywhere. You can now use your gold as money. And I'm sick really of people saying gold's great, but you can't use it in electronic payments. You can now with Glint. And what happens is when this is swiped, then a signal, an authorization request goes from the merchant. It goes through the banking system. It goes into MasterCard. And because we've partnered with MasterCard, our systems integrate with it. And that authorization request comes to our systems. Right now, there's transactions going through from our, tens of thousands of customers that will be using their card this month. Maybe, 50,000 of people. We have maybe 60,000 monthly active clients. They'll be using their card. When they're using their card, that authorization requests are coming into our system. And our system says, okay, how much gold does Jason have, right? Well, he's using his gold account. Well, he's got 36 grams of gold. And how much is that worth at the current valuation? That valuation's changing, as we can see on the screen right now. Okay, it's worth £2,965. Right. He's got enough money to pay for these two cocktails at $52 in Miami. So we authorize the transaction, and this all has to happen within 200 milliseconds. That's how fast we have to do this. And you've seen that yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, that was what pushed me over the edge, even after a wonderful presentation in your corporate office with your staff. Going to lunch with you in London and seeing the real-time application where you handed the card to the waiter, you opened your app at the same time, he processed it, and bang, the amount of gold just came. I mean, in a second. It was really, really, really very impressive. And
thank you.
There's no question that the platform and the technology behind it is kudos to you on not only how elegant it is, but also how efficient and straightforward. Let me ask you a question while we're talking about this. How about security? What do people need to know about the level of security in people's holdings on their MasterCard? What if your MasterCard is stolen? What if you lose it? What kind of
Yeah.
security features are built in to protect people?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing I think that a lot of people don't realize is that actually the liability for a credit or debit card transaction, of course, this is a debit card transaction. There's no credit in our system. You can't spend your gold unless you have gold. But the liability for that transaction, if it's used fraudulently, actually sits with the merchant, not with you. So there's a situation where your card gets stolen, the details get copied, and there's some fraud. That liability sits with the merchant. If we can show that this was not the customer who's using this was fraud, then they don't get that money. MasterCard
Would they have to put the gold back into the account?
Yeah, they'll debit the account, and the money gets put back. And in addition to that, if you how many times have you gone, oh, where's my card? Where's my card? Is it? Did I lose it, or is it down the side of the car? Like, I wonder if it's in one of my coats, and you're not quite sure. Ordinarily you'd have to kind of cancel that card, but then sod's law, you find it the next day. You're like, oh God, I've cancelled it. We have this feature here called freeze. Can you see that? Freeze in the middle of the screen there.
I see. Freeze. Oh yes, I see it. Yes.
Freeze. So if I click freeze, it just takes a minute. It's going through our systems. It's checking the card details, etc. And now, look, it's just froze. You see it go a bit frosty? It's now frozen the debit card. So I haven't cancelled it, but that debit card cannot be used right now, which is quite a cool feature as well. So I better remember
to defrost.
Yeah, let's defrost it, because I don't want to forget. I don't want to have my account decline next time I use it. So that's a neat feature. And the ultimate security feature, the one that I love the most, is that I don't know anyone in the entire universe that's found a way to dematerialize gold and hack it along the wires. That's the ultimate security.
That's a tough one.
Because we love our brethren, our cousins in the crypto universe, but you've seen how when they get hacked, because the actual asset is electronic, it can be stolen and then disappeared down the lines. At the moment in the BBC have a series all about the Brinks mat robbery, which, by the way, the gold wasn't stolen from the Brinks vault; it was stolen while it was in transit at Heathrow Airport. But it's interesting to see that this is physical gold. It cannot be hacked down the wire. There's no chance of that. So I think that's the ultimate security that people can rely on. And obviously, and the worst hack is the hack it's staring everybody in the face, isn't it? Which is the theft, as you and I might call it, that's caused by inflation, or this insidious tax that we have, hidden tax, hiding in plain view of our money, because through government central bank printing of money, that devalues our money. And of course, gold can't be printed because it's created when two neutron stars collide. So its nature is not defined by a human being, nor can it be altered by a human being.
I'd like to add to that, Jason, that to me, one of the biggest concerns, if I were to look into my crystal ball and look into the future, would be that the banking system is over leveraged and undercapitalized. And I would argue that with cash, this is money that perhaps people weren't even thinking of adding to their gold holdings, but maybe they have a larger amount in a safekeeping account or a checking account, savings account, that they would rather not leave within the banking system. Maybe they're over the FDIC limit, and they would rather have it in the form of gold that is transactional, that is held in a vault, that is outside the banking system. Yes, when you utilize the MasterCard, it's going through a bank, but that's irrelevant. In the meantime, it's kept physically held and audited within a vault in Zurich, Switzerland. So I think that's worth mentioning as well.
Yeah, I think some people say, well, why don't I want to spend my gold? Why would I want to spend my gold if it's going up in value? And the answer to that's really simple. It's the opposite of Gresham's law. It's Thayer's law, which says good money always drives out bad. And the reason why people normally don't want to spend their gold is because they need some ready money. You need your money to be liquid and be able to spend at a moment's notice. And so they keep quite a considerable amount of money in cash in banks. But of course, what we can do now with Glint, with this, is that you can put your ready money into gold too. And of course, money is something you both save and at some point spend. And so we've got the benefit of that now. We've given this the utility. We've enabled it to be used as money.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I would like to do a series of these conversations with you on a regular basis, because there are very few things, Jason, that I've ever hitched my company's wagon to. Yours is one of them. And not only am I proud to call you a friend, I'm also proud to represent your fine company here in the United States. And it truly is an amazing piece of technology. You're partnered with Brinks, which I have personal experience of believing they are the best in the industry. And the technology is second to none. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that someone needs to know if they're thinking about, maybe this is something I want to do? But
yes,
what would be is there a but that we haven't covered yet?
I think the but would be, hey, you've been talking at the beginning of this show about capital gains tax and how there's a capital gains tax on gold should you be fortunate enough to have a gain, which you have more often than not with gold. And of course, this legislation hasn't yet been passed, or you're not authorized as a transactional gold currency yet. What do we do about all these transactions if I'm making transactions here for a coffee or for my dinner or for a party or for school fees or for a medical bill? How do I work out the capital gains tax? And that is something we were really cognizant of. So we work with KPMG, who are one of the biggest accountancy firms in the world. You see in the top right-hand corner, we've got a little profile picture, the little red dot there showing me I've got some notifications. I've got a little inbox where you get little messages about from the company, things that you need to know about your product, the transaction alerts, things like that. I do have, if I scroll down here, we've got statements, so you can actually download a spreadsheet or a PDF of your statement and all your transactions. And if you really want to work it out yourself, you can do. But of course, we've got gains and losses report here. So if I click on that, it only costs $35. And of course, you can have thousands of transactions in here. And effectively what it does is it sends off your transaction and data anonymously, by the way, to KPMG, and they will send you back that gains or loss report for you to be able to submit your tax return to the IRS. So that's been taking care of that.
Well, that's huge, especially at the end of the year. You'll want to definitely know where you are, whether a loss or a gain. Most likely a gain these days. But can we still have people sign up, use Andy24 as the promotion code, and we'll send them out a free Glint MasterCard?
Yes, you can still do that. Please type in, when you're going through the registration, at some point it say, do you have a referral code or something like that? You type in Andy24. And then we'll know that you're coming from Andy's audience. And the other thing that's important as well, what was it? Oh, yes, is this is not available in the US at the moment. If I go into gold, there's this button in the bottom right called send. This is available in the US for dollars, but not yet gold. But everywhere else in the world it is available for gold. It's coming to the US soon, especially when the constitutional gold currency authorization comes through. But I can basically, in addition to using my MasterCard to pay somebody else or transfer my funds, in that case with MasterCard to a merchant, I can also click on send, and I can send gold to another person who's got a Glint account as quickly and easy as sending a text. I can put a little message on there.
So I could do that with dollars right now with someone else here in the States instead of using Venmo or Zelle.
Yes, that's right. When you want to transfer some money to me next time I'm in Florida, you're quite welcome to do that. I'll make sure you got my
account details. Is that free, by the way? Is that free to the user?
That's free. And of course, that means this is the thing, is that we're not reliant just on MasterCard. When we introduce that next year, it'll also have this system that's completely outside of the existing incumbent financial system that allows you to pay and transfer, make payments in lieu of payments and debts, as the Constitution says, with gold. And that it's the ultimate independence, the ultimate freedom that you've got there with that.
Well, it's an amazing technology. You're an amazing guidance, an amazing company. Next
you're too
week, we
kind.
plan
Thank
on
you.
making, but it's true, Jason, and I mean it. I hope you know that. And next week, we're going
Yeah.
to make some special announcements that you are privy to. I'd like you to be one of the first guests on the show, and we'll continue to let people know how important this technology is. And for all of the people out there who understand the principles of gold, push back against the principles of a dollar that is continuously being devalued, down over 10% this year. Gold's up over 30% this year. It's a 40% net swing. This is the way to hold your extra cash that you need for transactions. This is something that I'm proud enough to say Miles Franklin stands behind it. So I appreciate you for coming on. I know it's getting late in the UK. I will let you go, but we'll get this out right away. We'll continue to sing the praises of Glint, get more and more people understanding it, at least researching it and looking into it. Remember to type in Andy24 when you sign up, get your free MasterCard. And Jason, I appreciate you, brother. Let's do it again real soon. You stay well across the pond, huh?
Thank you very much, Andy. You're an absolute star, and Miles Franklin, an absolutely amazing company that you've built there as well.
Thank you, brother. We will talk soon.
Little by Little with Andy Schectman.